Grace's guide to low voltage. We need diode, gallium arsenide, fine copper wire, liquid glass. We also need PPCB, silver, sawdust, and glue. Phenolic circuit board is made with glue and thermal sawdust. What are these signs? Gallium is made by chem lib bees in the overworld. Arsenic is from Realgar. Gallium and arsenic, silver's free. What? Hey everyone, my name is KryptoCal, and welcome to the next episode of All the Mods 9, GregTech Gauntlet.
Hello. You ready to get... Hey. I was going to say, are you ready to get... Wait, I'm not going to say that. That sounds inappropriate.
Are you ready to get Gregging? Is that what you're going to say?
No, I was going to say, are you ready to get your Greg on? That's weird.
Oh, no. In the last episode, we did a very... In the last episode, we set up this whole processing line down here, all of which was to automate this one component, the basic electronic circuit, which is going to be our step into LV and progressing on in that. And yes, this is a very, very inefficient way to make these circuits, but considering that we're going to end up going back and making different circuits for LV once we get access to MV and higher tiers of voltage, I think we're just going to probably leave the setup as is because it's not going to be really worth it for us to go back and change it, considering there's going to be better ways to make it in the future.
Ideally, we'd like to get this phased out quickly, and this will persist as the wall of shame forever and ever.
Yes, this will be the wall of shame, and we're going to keep this as a reminder of where we started. It's a good gauge of how much we learn over the course of this series.
Yeah, and we've been doing a bit of research, so we are a little more educated now on how to move going forward.
So to start off this episode, we have done a little bit of, well, obviously Grace has been absolutely cooking with the LV plans and moving into this tier. So now in order to know what we're doing at all, we have to read Minecraft science. But apart from that, we do want to get ourselves set up with some automations for a couple more raw resources that we don't have access to quite yet. One of those very important resources is going to be the fine wire and also the 1x wire of all these different materials. Now, some of these are going to be for tiers of voltage that we don't have access to quite yet, but stuff like the fine copper and a lot of these lower tier ones, we're going to want to have these available for us all the time. And we were kind of thinking about plans for the base and what we wanted to have all these hallways here for, and we decided that this would actually be a great room on all four of these wings to have all of the wires being automated with a whole bunch of wire mills.
Yeah, and if we have any extra room, maybe some cutters that'll have the bolts, because the bolts are going to probably be needed for like the tin bolts and stuff like that.
Yeah, bolts and screws are needed for like everything, so we're going to want those available too. But one thing I did actually realize is I was under the impression that there weren't any superconductors in this pack. And what a superconductor is, it's actually a GregTech cable that doesn't have any voltage drop no matter how long it gets, which is really handy. But if you type in the hashtag or # superconductor, there's actually quite a few of these different materials that act as superconductors that don't have any voltage drop. They're just not called superconductors straight up. So by doing this, you can see what ones we have access to. The LV one is the manganese phosphide wire. We have the manganese being processed currently by some ChemLib stuff back in the overworld, but we don't really have an automation for phosphorus. So we're going to want to get this set up at some point and probably going to want to look at getting all of the superconductors for all of the tiers, because having no voltage drop along all of your cable is going to be huge. To actually take a little more time into Grace's guide to low voltage, we see that there are quite a few steps that we're going to have to take here to properly get ourselves sorted. First step, we're going to need diodes. Diodes are the main crucial part that we are still lacking to get ourselves the basic circuits going, the good circuits, I think. Yeah, the good electronic circuits.
It's the first medium circuit, but it's also the upgraded low voltage circuit.
Then we need PPCB.
So I short formed it because it was too long to write on a sign. It's the polyphenol, or the word here. There it is.
Phenolic printed circuit board.
Yes, the phenolic circuit oh frick, put an acronym because I did not want to write that on a sign.
So. I mean, I wish you hadn't written anything on signs, but here we are. The phenolic circuit board takes silver wire and the normal circuit board here. There are other ways you can make this. Inside of the chemical reactor, we can use silver foil, which is a little bit cheaper in the silver. It only takes 1 ingot instead of, this is 4 ingots. However, we would then have to make either sodium persulfate or iron 3 chloride to make this work. And frankly, we have access to infinite resources with our bees and mystical, so access to silver is not a problem. So I think this is actually going to be an easier craft overall, at least to start off. So we're probably going to aim for this one. And then finally, we have to take the diodes, make them in the assembler, same as the PPCB, and then the circuit can now be crafted. And this has been Grace's guide to low voltage. And we also went ahead and set up another set of 3 rooms here, stemming off the other direction from our purple line. So now we have a magenta line with the exact same configuration. But this episode is also going to be the time that we dive into AutoCrafting with applied energistics, because we're getting to the point in GregTech here where we're needing to do a lot of crafting of a lot of different things that don't necessarily have to be put on passive crafting. They're okay just to be requested when we need them. But in order to do that, we're of course going to need access to requestable crafting. Thankfully, I've gone ahead and pre-planned a lot of recipes with refined storage to actually set up applied energistics crafting. It seems a little backwards, but it's going to help in the long run, I promise. And back over here at our applied energistics wing, this is where we're actually going to set up our initial crafters. Now, I have this entire side of the room open, so I think this is where we're going to start setting up some of the basics. We might need some more space for others, which we can always expand our rooms out this way a little bit if we have to, but I think for now this will be probably fine. So over in our applied energistics room, I set up one more P2P for this room, even though we are only using 10 channels currently over here. There's a good chance we're going to probably run out of channels overall, so I went ahead and added one more just on the other side of the room, and I've actually run them to all 4 corners. So there are a couple main components of applied energistics AutoCrafting that are quite a bit different than refined storage. Refined storage is 1-block AutoCrafters, which are really handy because they're very simple, but they also are limited in their functionality. They can't run in parallel very easily, so running multiple crafts at the same time with refined storage can be a little bit slow. But with applied energistics, it's a little bit different. This is the molecular assembler. Think of this thing as just a crafting table.
It's glass.
Just imagine this is a glass-powered crafting table. On its own, you can actually put things in here, hook it in, and as long as you're feeding it the right items, it'll just automatically craft the recipe you put in it. But we don't really want to do that because that's no different than just doing it yourself, right? What we actually want is it to do that for us, and that's where these come in, the pattern providers. Similar to how we have the refined storage AutoCrafters, this is where we put the patterns in to do the crafting. All of our recipes going forward that are going to be 3x3 crafts are all going to be put inside of various pattern providers. And what pattern providers do is they actually look beside them for any inventory to place a recipe in to craft. If we put a bunch of 3x3 recipes inside of this thing, it'll look at all blocks around it to be like, hey, where can I actually get this craft to be done? If we have molecular assemblers all around it like this, it'll basically have 4 options as to where it can send the items to craft. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so.
So theoretically, the most efficient way you could make a pattern provider work is something like this, like fully surrounded by molecular assemblers where it would have 6 different options to where it could send the items. Unfortunately, this isn't super practical because oftentimes you're going to need more slots for patterns than you will actually need parallel options. And it also makes tiling this super difficult. Or the configuration that I like to use for crafting is something like this. A 2x2, just like this, where there is a checkerboard pattern of pattern providers and the molecular assemblers. So each of these basically has access to 2 of the assemblers beside it. But then as we stack this higher and higher, I like to alternate them just like that. And this has basically given this pattern provider here access to 3 different options as to where it can send the items to craft. And we just keep repeating this pattern all the way up. And this is what I consider a molecular assembler crafting tower. I'm going to have 1 on each corner is what the plan is. And hopefully this will provide us with a lot of storage for a bunch of different patterns. And that'll just give us lots of room for expansion in the future to add different crafts. Now, I've actually never used the extended molecular assembler. It's from the extended AE mod. I'm not exactly sure what this does compared to the regular molecular assembler. If I just take this out and replace it, what do we look here? Oh, so very similar to how the extended inscribers work, you can have the extended molecular assemblers where one of these can take 4 recipes in at a time. That is pretty good. Though it does seem a little overkill considering how many patterns we're going to be able to hold in here. I'm not sure it's going to be totally worth it, but we might end up trying it in the future just for fun. But that's going to be expensive. That's a lot of these molecular assemblers. So I think for now, we'll come back to this in the future, but we're going to stick with the normal ones. But this is no good here. I need to tear this all down because this actually isn't doing anything. And I've actually run dense cables to all these corners because we're going to need to have quite a few channels available to us. And that's because each of these pattern providers actually does take up 1 channel. So if we have multiples of these, and if they're attached like this, there should be a 2-channel usage coming off of this dense cable. Because as we stack this higher and higher, it's going to start using more and more channels. So we're going to have to make sure we don't run out of channels. So currently we're at 8 out of 32. Okay, see, we're only at 8 out of 32, and that's because I think we have to hook in another set of the smart cable in order to have more channels accessible. Let's just double check if that's actually the case. Could I do that and then add more? Is that going to let me have more channels? 12. Yeah, so we have a total of 12 channels being used. So it looks like with this current configuration, we can probably get 16 total, which is actually going to be perfect considering the size of this whole thing. Oh, I have to hook up another cable. I'll just hook in the entire bottom just like that. So we're at 18 channels total. All right, let's just squeeze out as many as we can. All right, I'll stop there. I'll leave it one block above the top, and that's going to be 22. So as long as there are actually 22 pattern providers here, that means that they are all online. The molecular assemblers don't take any channels, which is actually a big deal. So the only thing that takes channels here are the pattern providers themselves. There is also a pattern provider. Actually, I can craft it up because I have it on AutoCraft. There's the extended pattern provider, which, like the other extended AE things, just adds more functionality. So in this case, look at how many pattern slots are in the extended one.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
And imagine that tiled up that high. I just don't think that's necessary.
That feels very overkill.
Considering the plan is to aesthetically have 4 corners have this, I don't really think that's going to be required. And here's the fun part. Now that we've placed all this down, we get the joy of taking acceleration carts and placing 5 in every single molecular assembler.
Oh no. Yay.
Thankfully, it's just a matter of shift clicking simulator, so it's not the end of the world.
Also, by the way, brother, this clipboard, you should look at it.
This has been your PowerPoint presentation.
This is my PowerPoint presentation, but in a clipboard. Now it's got low voltage and it's got medium voltage. Your girl has been working. You think this is a game?
All of the acceleration cards have been applied, so this is going to be flying. The crafting in this is going to be blistering fast. And I'm going to set up another one over here, probably in between clips or something, but I'm not going to bother right now. I would rather just get this functional first, so we'll come back to that later. But effectively, this is the start of AutoCrafting with applied energistics. But wait, you thought this was all? You think this is as simple as just a little tower with some crafting tables? Oh, no, no, no. Welcome to crafting co-processing units.
It's purple.
Not only that, but we also have to get out a couple more things to help us with our AutoCrafting. Those are going to be crafting storage. Let's just make a couple of the 64Ks, which take some of these storage components. Boop.
Ooh.
It multi-blocks.
It does indeed. That's cool.
The premise of applied energistics AutoCrafting is that every recipe you request from the system has a cost, and that cost is crafting storage or crafting memory. The more complicated the craft is, the higher the crafting cost or storage it's going to take up to actually complete the craft. Oh, wait, we had 22. Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, we're going to have a channel issue down here because we're at 22 channels used already. All right, I added one more P2P, so hopefully we should have enough channels now for all of our stuff going forward here. The crafting coprocessors are very, very important to the CPUs we're going to be making here. What these will actually do is allow our pattern providers to make use of multiple molecular assemblers. You know how I was talking about how they can make use of the attaching or adjacent assemblers? So by default, they can only send to one adjacent inventory.
Okay.
So they'll only by default use one assembler. If we have a crafting CPU that has one coprocessor, it adds 1 to the number of assemblers that it can use. And our tower here, for the most part, will allow these to make use of up to 4. So we're going to have all of our crafting CPUs have a total of 3 coprocessing units. The 64Ks are kind of the sweet spot. We could do 256Ks. I might have a couple just in case we want to have a really big one for like the ultimate craft. And the nice thing is these crafting storages only take up 1 channel each. So they're not, no matter how big you make these multi-blocks, as long as it's only just 1, it'll only ever take up 1 channel on your storage. What I'm thinking is we're going to have a bunch of small CPUs like this. Actually, you know what? We'll just do like this. For every single one of these we have, that's 1 craft that can be running in parallel to another craft. I do love how AE2 handles AutoCrafting because it really sets up a lot of expandability. Yeah, so all these are online now. Take a look inside one. See on the left-hand side there where it says CPU auto selection mode? You can configure this to have certain CPUs be always reserved for certain things. So we can intentionally reserve this to only accept crafts that we like put in the request for, and it'll always be available for us. We can also select this to be available exclusively by automation. So if we're using like a crafting card or something where we're trying to keep certain materials in stock that are auto craftable, that way we can make sure that we always have crafters available for those automations, but then we also have availability for ourselves to do crafting when we want to. So what I always teach our auto crafting system to do first is craft more patterns. Now, if we come back to our main crafting terminal in the main room here, I'm also going to add one very important thing that's going to be very crucial for us to manage all of our crafting, and that's going to be the pattern access terminal. I'm going to actually put this right above here. So this pattern access terminal shows us every single molecular assembler over at our setup over there. So let's teach this thing how to make a blank pattern. Take some glowstone, some Certus quartz, quartz glass, and iron, all of which should be available in our storage here. So let's go ahead and place this in our very first molecular assembler, and we can actually place it inside of the pattern terminal here. Rule of thumb, try and fill the crafters vertically first, then horizontally. You know those pattern providers that we have over there, the yellow boxes like I was talking about? They have 9 slots.
Yep.
Those 9 slots are the horizontal 9 slots you see.
Oh, I see. So fill up, scroll down, fill them up
Scroll
vertically.
down, fill up vertically.
Oh.
That'll fill up different providers before it adds one more to the same one.
That makes sense. Okay.
If there's an item in your AE2 system that you can auto-craft, it gives you a little plus button beside it that says you can add more. And with refined storage, you have to normally press Control, Shift, and then click to do it. With AE2, it's middle mouse button.
Oh.
So you go into it, middle mouse button on it, just one button, and then you can request them that way.
Okay.
So in this case, we'll have 20. And it says, okay, we have all of the available things we need, and we can select down here to use any CPU. Doesn't matter, just will automatically pick one. You can also intentionally pick one if you want. So we have all 5 of these showing up as valid options, but I think we'll just keep it on automatic for now. And if we hit start, it's done very fast. And that is going to be the start of our auto crafting adventures. We're going to have many more crafts going in this, and obviously we're not going to be showing every time we put a craft in here, but just know that if we have to craft something going forward in GregTech, we're going to try and auto-craft it. All right, well, let's get some auto-craft set up. Maybe we'll make another tower here, and let's get this GregTech show on the road. All right, so looking ahead, we're going to be getting into the electric blast furnace today. One thing we do have to get going before that is going to be cupronickel. Cupronickel coil blocks are an important part of the multi-block. We have to make this inside of the assembler using our cupronickel wire, bronze foil, and the tin alloy liquid here. And to get the tin alloy, you have to, I think, make that inside of the alloy smelter, iron and tin. So it's very simple, but we do have to get some cupronickel automated. So that's what we're doing over here. We also decided to change up a little bit on this side and add some extra wire mills. All these wire mills are creating the 1x wire and then also the fine wire. Currently we have the copper and tin ones set up, but we also plan on getting the cupronickel set up as well as a couple other wires early on. So currently Grace is adding in some setups over here.
Currently I'm just making cupronickel, but we need to import nickel from refined storage.
Yeah, we looked at this, and a lot of these items, like the bronze foil, is only really used just to create this cupronickel coil block. It takes 16 of these per EBF, and there's a good chance we're going to want multiple EBFs running, so we're probably going to have it make us quite a few of these. The bronze foil and all this can basically just stay localized to this setup here temporarily, and then once we have enough, we can just take it all down. So we have tin alloy ingots being made, which is fantastic. We're going to just auto export to the bottom, which will then be turned into the fluid version. We'll put the assembler down like this, fluid export to the left. So now we have liquid tin alloy being buffered inside of the assembler, and that's where we're going to add our 2x cupronickel wire and bronze foil, and we'll start getting the coil blocks. I guess there's not really a point in buffering a lot of the foil.
No, we don't really need it. I would just say wait until you have enough and then we'll work from there. But we technically don't even need to be doing this to get the upgraded circuits, like at all. We can make the circuits like now. Take a look at the tree. We already have all the materials we need. You did not look at my guide, obviously.
We'll use the LV one as like we learn how it works.
Okay, we should have enough cupronickel wire now.
The assembler up here is now making the coil blocks. All right. Our 16th coil block is being made here. Done. We need 2 LV energy hatches. Oh, to get these, we have to have an assembler making using magnetic iron and fine steel wire. We have input and output hatches and the maintenance hatch, which is good. We also need to get the input and output buses, as well as the muffler hatch. We do already have LV output and input bus. All right, so to start off, we can actually take the main electric blast furnace block here. We can press U on it, and there should be a multi-block info screen where it shows you what the completed multi-block looks like. Start off by placing the block down right in the middle, and it says structure incomplete, obviously. If you make something called a terminal, this is supposed to be able to auto-build multi-blocks. If we shift right click this, it should auto-build the block.
Oh, wait, I'm doing that right now.
I love how you didn't care until it did it, and then you're like, wait. There is some flexibility as to where you put stuff. I think the only real restriction is the main central block here has to be at the bottom in the middle, and there can't be anything besides the coils in the middle too. But apart from that, I think it's pretty flexible. There is only one energy hatch that it placed back here though, and I think we do want two.
You can have the input and output right beside each other.
Input bus, input hatch, output hatch. So that'll keep all of the fluids on one side and all the items on the other side, I guess.
It needs maintenance, it says.
Maintenance hatch,
Wrench is loose. Okay, I used the wrench. I guess I gotta use the wrench more.
On the maintenance hatch, it says click this slot with empty hand when required tools are in inventory to solve problems. So I have all my tools in my inventory. If I click this... Did that work?
Oh, the maintenance hatch.
Oh, there we go. I think that fixed it, I think.
Yeah, that fixed it. It's good. Maintenance is fine.
All right, so you gotta have all your tools in your inventory that you need to be able to do maintenance on it. I guess what we can do here is just grab ourselves a point, place down a couple of cables and hook these together, and we should be able to actually get this some power just using our point instead of having to get the converter, right? So that'll be at least handy. Okay, so the energy hatches have power, so this thing should be good to start running. What's a test one we can do? Put some stuff in the input bus and it should work. Hopefully. Oh, it's gonna take 187 seconds at this tier though. Whew.
That's okay. That's okay. It's working though. Well, it's making neodymium, which is nice, I guess.
What'd you just call me?
Dymium.
Did you just call me dim?
You better believe I did.
But after making this EBF, I think that's a great place to call it for this episode. In the next episode, we'll be diving even further into LV, pushing through, and hopefully getting to the point where we finish and move on to the MV chapter. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I really hope you did enjoy this episode. If you did, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to join the Discord. Link is in the description down below. But that's it from us. I hope you all have a good one, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye!